been such a pleasure being here. We've grown up on your writing, and Kainaz, you've literally loved your way to the top. So, funny books are often overlooked while the attention goes to heart-wrenching coming-of-age stories. But in this time post-COVID, I think women writers who use their wit and humor to explore serious subjects tell a great story. So I want to know from you, Sathya, what you feel about women in humor. Do you think that we would actually qualify for a Pulitzer or any of the serious book, or we will just be confined to Ronaldo?
No, I think humor is there in our lives. We fail to see it. And those who can see the humorous side of life survive. The real survivors are there, those who, even if they fall on a banana peel, say, ooh, that was a great slide. If they can see that part of it and not say, ouch, everyone's laughing at me, then you survived that fall.
Seriously, funny, someone said, that person might just feel offended and say, that's not funny, So I think in that respect, I think it's much more simpler to make someone feel an emotion that is not that funny, rather than make them feel cracking up at that point. Yeah.
What about writing?
Yeah.
That time you don't have face the audience. But
you don't face the audience, that's even more challenging. There are many incidents in my book which I've just written about my own life, and it's a lot of dark humor I have put in my book. It's I'm actually, I wouldn't say making fun of myself, but a lot of fun was made of me when I was a teenager or even in my younger years. So it really hurt me a lot then. Now it seems like it could be funny, they would call me certain names which I don't want to mention, but in my school they would say, oh, Humpty Dumpty. That's not funny. That really hurts you. Or if it says, something like Kaddu, Laddu, something like that time, it hurts you. But now when you're writing it, it's like, someone reads it, they might just smile, but actually there's a lot of grief, like a grief, like a sadness behind that. This person has gone through that. So that is the kind of dark humor that, I kind of put across. Of course, sarcasm gets lost to people, so that also again is something that is tough. So according to me, I think there are 3 types of humor that I use in my books. We're talking about a book directly. This is dark humor. One that is totally it's like slapstick humor, oh, I walked into and I just fell on him and the spaghetti bolognese just fell over him, and that's the funny part of it. But otherwise, these 3 types of humor that I have used in my book, and this is what I do. And of course, then there's God's humor. He plays a joke on us all the time. This is what I feel like. Kuch hote. So that's the 4th kind of humor, but I don't think I should talk about that. Yeah.
What about you, Sathya? How do you feel?
Well, I do write humor, not as much as I could. In fact, this book of mine, which is this is my first book which I ever published. It was published as Dark Side and Other Stories, then Manjul Publication took it up and made it. It was published as Night Train and Other Stories, and now it's called The Dark Side. It's just got a new reprint. In that, there are 2 stories which are funny. And they're funny because they are about people who have idiosyncrasies. Whatever. You know what I mean? See, that's funny. That's funny. Which are funny at the same time, that's how they are. So there's one story about a Buaji which is actually based on a very fleeting encounter with a Buaji of my husband's, who was very possessive about everything. And the story is about how she takes a train journey for a wedding. And she's got a new pair of dentures.
Part which I could probably have saved for you. In the process, my camera fell, but my camera was still with me. We had lost the hood. And next day in the papers, I'm having Shah Rukh Khan in that photograph. Whose hood is it? Okay. The next time I'll save that hood for you. Yes, please save the hood for me. But that moment was really terrible when he had spaghetti with sambar. Who eats spaghetti with sambar? Already we have categorized 3 states together. Now we will eat sambar with spaghetti. I remember what had happened the first time I gone to an Italian restaurant with a friend who wanted to feed me Italian, and I didn't want to. I can only eat certain food. I have stuck to Chinese. I don't understand food. So he got me lasagna. Then finally he gave me the food. कैसा था? सांभर के ऊपर चीज लगाया था. My understanding of Italian. Mera bhi is tomato sauce which is sambar, right? It's good I even like it's not what I like to eat. I don't live Chinese culture. But he insisted on getting me new grill. As editor of hotelier and caterer also, I used to take friends who love food. Because in a 16-course menu, I am full into. Then they look at me and I am a vegetarian, I eat bland food. So you know where I am. The chef has made some 16-course meal, half of which I don't understand. So all my friends love it and they eat it and they say, wow, as they ask me questions. Chef is happy I am. But well, then the next time I meet Shah Rukh Khan, I know who to call.
Everyone who meets Shah Rukh Khan knows who to call.
I've added to the list here. Satyaji, what do you feel about portrayal of women in cinema? Has it changed over the years or are we still a caricature somewhere?
Before that, I remember I did a book on Guru Dutt. And I was watching all his films before I started writing the book because I had seen them as in the reruns in college, bunking class. And I had forgotten because half your mind when you bunk classes, you have to go back. So I was watching Pyasa, which is a lovely film, serious film. And suddenly there is Tum. And it's a kind of, he is. So I realized that it's a mature way of handling humor, and it's a good thing that it's happening.
Yeah, it's like I've actually, now since you talked about your book and my book, thank you so much. So yeah, I've kind of taken certain issues and I've laughed at myself. Because when you look back in your life, you kind of laugh, right? There are two things you can do when you look back on your life, okay? If it's not too tragic, of course, God forbid, but you can either just feel very sorry for yourself and say, all these things have happened to me, now there's nothing I can do, or then you can just look back and laugh and you can actually write and, in retrospect, I think everything that happened, that was, things like body shaming and finding the perfect man and crashing and falling and thinking this is my soulmate and realizing he's just a whole mate and things like that, H-O-L-E. So things like that time it's very bad, but then when you really think about it, you actually write a book about it and you feel really good, like my therapy session is done. I don't need to visit my 5,000 therapists. A few of them were hot and cute, they're in the book. But apart from that, I think you just realize that abhi memoir ho gaya, I feel better about myself, I can laugh at myself, and that's the trick actually. The day you all can laugh at yourself, right? Then nobody will ever will point a finger to you because like isko kuch farak hi nahi padta, This is in Rome, okay? Unsteady with excitement to meet my lust at first sight in my new black patent leather wedges, which surprisingly gave me no shoe bites. His ponytail had altered into a flowing mane and he looked dashingly deadly in sleek white pants and a long sleeved pastel feet shirt that enhanced his... Okay, you want to know this? This is some Gujarati in it, okay? This is like Parsi Gujarati, okay? I don't know if you'll understand it. Kadak as Gutli Pound. You want to know that? You don't have to know that. Sorry, it's translated, okay? It's hard as bread arms. If the stud muffin had been a real muffin, I would have relished him up in a tick. And then he says, ciao, amor mio. Hi, my love, he explained, grabbing me to give me another taste of the morning. But this time he lifted me up from the ground and swept me off my feet, literally. That's tough to sweep me off my feet, but he did it. Shall we stop?
Then everybody thinks you are the dude. So it's like, when you look into the mirror and you see this hot chick, I am hot. I don't give a shit about the world. I will become 78 and still be as hot. That's the whole deal. So when I was 16, probably people thought I was 25 and now I'm 52 and people think I'm 38. Not bad. I know I'm 16, so that's better. And I'll tell you one very funny incident about Guru Dutt's thing. I wanted to remake the film. It's all Kachar. So incident it happened so coincidentally I wanted to make it called me and he had Chaudhary Ka Chand on my mobile. So he was like, oh God, it's a good idea to make this thing. So I wrote it completely from the new perspective. Saying, आज की तारीख में अगर होता तो क्या होता? It can't be that time का ना, times have changed. ये तो गुरु तो था ही नहीं. So ऐसे आपने देखा है पिक्चर? नहीं. So ऐसे पिताजी आपने पिक्चर देखा है? ऐसे हाँ, ऐसे आपको पिताजी के रोल में कास्ट करते हैं, ये घर ले जाएंगे. So after the end of this all, Javed Akhtar ji decided he will meet us. So we met him. He loved the storyline. He said, I'm doing this. And Arvind Akhtar said yes. So getting Javed Akhtar on board was like the biggest thing to happen to the film because he understood the pulse. He liked the way it was in today's setting. Everything okay. He said, मैं रानी मुखर्जी को बुला लेता हूँ. Producer says, नहीं जाने नहीं चाहिए. जावेद अख्तर literally showed us the door. वो दरवाजा है. वहाँ से right मार के left मार के बाहर वाला. He didn't say it because he's a nice guy, but that was the end of our conversation. After coming out, I asked this guy, आपने हाँ क्यों नहीं बोला रानी मुखर्जी को? He said, हमारे पास रानी मुखर्जी के पैसे नहीं हैं. I said, कल भी yes sir बोल के तो बाहर निकल के कल भी तो मना कर देते मिल जाते हैं पैसे. So that is the essence of a good story going in.
Why is he even saying that? He said, I don't believe in God, I'm an atheist. I said, oh God, of all the things, like 90% people believe in God. Yeah, what are you going to think that Mr. Javed Akhtar is an atheist? Maybe he is, I haven't read about him. So I was ready, like, God ko kaisa mana? Like, I don't want to do a launch if someone doesn't believe in God and my God. And then my friend was like, I'm an atheist for now. I said, oh, I understand your perspective, Mr. Akhtar. It can be that way. And then slowly, we warmed him up and he did come for the launch after all. So if you ever go to Mr. Akhtar for anything, please don't mention God. Fine. Like if you're an atheist, you're an atheist. If you're non-veg and I eat veg, I love non-veg, say whatever you want when you meet people. It's all right. Sorry.
I'm going to share a Javed Akhtar story. I was interviewing him for a book. He was going to talk about his children. It was a book on fathers writing about their children. And I had broken my arm and I was in a cast, so it used to take me much longer to get ready because this arm was out of order. And I reached about 20 minutes late, so I said, I'm sorry Javed Sahab, में caste का problem था. Caste का तो हमेशा problem है. वही late करते हैं हमेशा. So I think since we are talking of humor, I wanted to share that one-liner from him. On that note, thank you.
Thank you so much.
A strong band of women around you, you won't really fall. You may try to, or you may want to, but somehow they always hold you. And I feel very, very blessed to have a strong bunch of women around me. And I think life would not be as...
Talking about female friendship today. Today, of course, we are celebrating women. It's that time of the year when everyone remembers that women are part of the workforce and propping up the economy and so on and so forth. And what I feel is that I feel very lucky that I'm here in this room, with so many women who I look up to. And the fact is that, they have won our freedom for us and they have won our social and economic and legal and sexual freedom for us. And we are celebrating that. And we are celebrating women when they stand with each other. But there are so many things, the sort of journeys we have, the sort of jobs we do. So I feel that families, spouses, siblings, I think they can only help us to a point. Beyond that, uske aage, you need your own squad, close friends, not just jiske samne you can vent your feelings, but also where you can articulate your ambitions. So, without being judged. I think articulating your ambitions is a very important thing, and that can easily happen. That happens more, at least with me. That's happened when I have been with my close friends. Because, and this is a very general thing, I don't think that family and spouses and siblings, they don't want to help you in your journey. It's not they are unwilling. I think they are simply unable to understand your motivations most of the time, why you're doing what you're doing. And also, and this is again a very general thing I'm saying, maybe most families are not like that. But I think families have a stake in you not disturbing the status quo. You see, and you not rocking the boat. लेकिन if आप journey पे निकल रहे हो तो boat तो rock होगी. You see, and so you need your tribe to be there so that they can extend that lifeline when you're tossed out.
It's a very interesting study which says that female friends increase your longevity. And not just that, they last a lifetime. It's like 16 years is the time that you actually have your women.
My harshest critics, and I thank them for that. So the first time I was writing a book, when I was writing it, actually one of my friends is the one who got me to blog. Her name is Jaya, she's an author herself. And she was the one who first pushed me to write. And I used to send each and every article to her. I would never ever put anything out before it went through her. And I remember when I was writing the first book, they kept telling me, they said, please don't write as much as you talk. Like, please. Nobody wants to hear it. And that is true. You know, nobody wants to listen to so many lines. And in fact, all the stuff that I do always goes through various friends groups. Like sometimes, oh my god, this is so good. Sometimes, oh, this is crap. So it's like, I cannot ever say that this person or that person is more valuable to me. Because they all have...
So we've connected, yes, you are. So she's a 16-year-old girl. Her mother's got, her father made her mother the signing authority and ran away. All the money gone. Mother is in jail, 2 children. She's 16, kid is 9, brother. So she was very sad and depressed, and she was living with her mother's boyfriend. So the kind of pain, anguish she was going through, it's not like he was molesting her or something, but you just don't know what you're doing. And she was very depressed. And I used to just talk to her. Nothing else. She would call me and she'll random talk to me. I said, your name? She said, I won't tell you. I said, okay, don't tell. So she said, I told her, where do you stay? She said, I can't tell you. I said, don't tell. I told her everything about myself. And I told her, ये मेरा घर का एड्रेस है, ये मेरा लोकेशन है, तेरे को जब आना है आ जा, पूछ मत, 3 बजे पहले बजा, you have a house. That makes sense to her. So she stayed through and through that whole journey. And then I finally thought I should get some, I gave her everything, CM का Twitter, PM का Twitter, मांगा हो तो सीधा डाल देगा, 15 मिनट में कोई पहुंच जाता है तुम्हारे घर, हमारे यहाँ उतना होता नहीं. She shifted to Bangalore. And so I thought we should get somebody in Bangalore for her. So I spoke to lady who's a counselor and a professional. I'm not a counselor. I just hold hands. So I just made her speak to her. She didn't like her. She said, I don't like her. I said, it's okay. मेरे से बात कर पर उसको सुन. So then she put her on to somebody from Bangalore. And one fine morning the counselor calls me after 2 months and says, oh, there's some girl from Bangalore who's 16 and with her brother, they are trying to commit suicide. So मेरा तो दिल दुख गया. तो मैं उसके पेज में आके हाय हेलो बोला, कुछ बोली नहीं. And I used to religiously go to every week to her Instagram page and say hello. Last week she said, I'm sorry, I haven't been replying, but we are fine. And I am happy and I want to come and meet you. Now that gave me that sense of relief about a kid I had never met.
लेकिन उसकी जो पत्नी है, बीवी है, तारा, तो she supports Amba. You see, she supports her in, I mean, in the sense, even though, and she has everything to lose because she's pregnant and her husband is like totally, Nakul is totally like, you know, you cannot, and how can you even accept gifts from her, and she's not the sort of woman I want in my house, this, that and all. But I think there when Tara supports Amba and, you know, makes it out that, you know, she's not really going to, you know, she acknowledges her power, so I think that is for me, and I did. When I was writing the book, obviously you don't write because you want to talk about bonds like that. You have a plot, you have a story, and that's what we do. That's what we, you know, I mean, you just want to tell a good story. But somehow this bond was there, which really sort of developed. And there is one more bond here, which is between, you know, Amma and Patala, who's a mentor. I think women mentors are also very important. They just kind of, I mean, I can't tell you the kind of mentors I've had. I've been very lucky. Who just totally guided me in the correct direction at the right time, and there's no harm, you know, especially there's so many ladies, women here who are at the, you know, like heading their institutions, you're at the, you know, there is no harm.
It's called To the Moon and Back, and it's got love stories and love poems and poems of happiness and pain and memories and everything in it. I have to say that what you talked about when you read a good book, it's like 100 women hugging you, and I totally believe that. And it's something that every time I have to actually pick a book, I will go through everything that I want, but I kind of pick a woman author. Okay, and I think here among all of us, I've read Gayatri's book. The last book that I read was Gayatri's, and it is really lovely. And at the moment I'm reading something by Janice Farrier that I totally and truly love. You know, there is a wickedness that a woman writes with, and there is deep passion that she writes with. And I think there is a sense of, you can judge me if you want, it doesn't make a difference, that she writes with, and that's what I truly love. I don't think when anyone writes a book, you're actually thinking of what the other person is going to think of you, because in the little time that you get to write the words that you're writing, all you're thinking of at that point is switching off and pouring your heart out onto those pages. And yep, so coming back to that, I have this affinity for women writers, and thankfully I have some really good friends who are authors, and their books over everyone else. I'm biased that way.
But can I also say one thing here, that recently you're talking about girls, most of my buddies, some of men, I mean, they're awesome as buddies. So it's not like कि आपको आपका tribe में you have to specifically see the gender. Of course, we are celebrating women today, we are celebrating women bonding and all. That doesn't mean that we are dissing any other gender or the other genders. And I think my tribe has the most bestest and the most solid men ever. And so it's nothing to do, I think, at the end of the day with the gender. I think it's more to do with the tribe. You need to have your people, and it need not be your family. Actually, mostly it's never your family.
There's something that I want to share. All my best friends are men, okay? Not because I don't like women, because I understand them better. I'd rather play cricket on the streets than talk about things women do. It took me a lot of time to register as a woman. So I always was a tomboy and fun. But talking about women friendships and women reaching out, I think men reach out easier. Women tend to take time to reach. During this COVID, I had one lady who wanted to die, wanted to kill her son and wanted to kill her dog because she couldn't handle life. So somebody on Facebook connected with me and said, help her.
Included in the beautiful names I'm going to be talking today, and thanks for coming here on a Sunday. I mean, please have coffee, it's not on the house.
Thank you everyone for being here Sunday in Mumbai and in the full house. Thank you very much. And our books are here. Mine is Contamination, and Maria's is
Mine is on Amazon. It's very
and
cheap.
mine is on Amazon.
You welcome try out Contaminated, na? And we
Yes,
also moon and back.
Yeah, with the contamination. Okay, so if there are no more questions from the audience, we can Nora Roberts, these are the books which we grew up reading and exactly how they portray us. Like you love reading strong female characters, which I guess in Moons they were not, they were swooning by looking at some guy.
Yeah, but
But what I meant,
beautiful character sketches.
yeah, but they were still like, it was obviously male fantasies for women.
I mean,
That way.
they were stereotypes.
Stereotypes.
Yeah.
But they were all female authors.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is we tend to gravitate towards books written by females. Just want to reflect.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
As women writers, obviously we deliver to a narrative which has been pushed at the background for too long, over centuries, etc. And which is why we also kind of we are all building up that narrative. I think today's evening goes to prove that all the authors here and writers here who are talking about their works, whether it's humor, whether it's tragedy, whether it's drama, comedy, whatever genre it is, it's like actually pushing our way to get a seat on the table. So in that sense, I think we are really making a big difference. And I would imagine you guys are much younger, but Anusha and me come from a place where there were just a handful of women in the industry at the time when we started. So even that would make a massive difference. Gajra would remember those days, a little later, of course, she's also younger. So having said that, when we come to popular culture, now that's where this conundrum exists, in the sense that pop culture is supposed to be young. No, that's not true. At my age, I'm going to be 60 this year. I'm more pop in many ways than I see very, very, very many young people. So I think there's a problem here which needs addressing, and maybe this panel can help us understand this. As to being modern and being with it and being, at level with the times that you are living in, it has nothing to do with age. We actually thrust this responsibility of being modern on kids, which also is not fair on them. And we snatch away modernity from people as they grow older, especially women, you know, and when they are in their 40s and 50s, we start calling them has-beens, which is unfortunate. So that's my point of view.
Thank you, Vinta, for that. It's quite interesting the point that you made about older women, their representation in popular culture and stories, be it TV serials or it's movies or web series now or books. It's changing. I think pop culture basically captures a bit of what's going on in society. It doesn't stand out in isolation, and whether it captures it fast enough or not, that's always the question. And sometimes, of course, you overlook it to suit a certain narrative or agenda or whatever. But to my mind, one of the interesting things is that I feel, and now we see that changing. I don't know if that changes happen fast enough or not, but in the movies, we saw a lot of, the image of women as the mother, which was the strongest. Nargis, Mother India is something we all remember as an epitome, and it's sort of reinvented in different ways time and again. That was one. We've had the modern Indian women, different versions of it. We are seeing a lot more of it now, especially through, I think television kind of captured the common woman. आम आदमी की हम बहुत बात करते हैं, आम औरत की बात बहुत कम होती है. I think television captured that very effectively. Probably a little dramatized. Vinta, you did some fantastic work out there. And
We've all done, right?
Tara was, I think, one of the early modern breakout women characters which we admired, we like to watch, and we wanted to emulate, And now I think it's moved beyond in the post-truth era and whatnot. And I think it's an evolving process. We're seeing, like in my book, which I've written, which is a short story, which is collection of short stories set in Bollywood. The female characters are not archaic, whether they're old or whether they're young. It's of course it's the world that is being set. But the female characters, I think, I've strived to make them thinking people who have their own agency. They think for themselves about the situation that they're in. They're not all in perfect situations. Some are beautiful, some not so much, some are in a position of power, But they think for themselves. And they may sort of accommodate the masculine thinking, the men in their lives, in achieving what they want. And I think that's somewhere where the modern woman is, and we are seeing bits and bobs of that within the popular culture.
Thank you, Priyanka, and thank you, Vinta. I think what Vinta's done is put a very specific lens to this conversation. And I think earlier you and me were talking. I think what's very important for us to understand is women's stereotypes, right? And I think these stereotypes begin from the time that we begin reading stories to our children. From the fairy tales, where whether it's the Cinderellas, the Rapunzels, where there's this Prince Charming who comes and saves them from an evil stepmother, or even something that you mentioned, Nargis, Mother India, Bollywood references, early television, not early television actually, I would say just a few years ago, the kind of television that was happening. What happens is, good people are supposed to be sacrificial. Good people are not supposed to be selfish. Good people are supposed to be so moral that they can't have sexual desires, they should not be drinking alcohol, they can't be smoking cigarettes. So the thing is, with women, we associate morality with the goodness of a person. Age, like Vinta said, so a good older person needs to behave a certain way. Vinta certainly doesn't behave that way. And she's a fabulous person,
She's a producer, and I think she's the producer of my film Shout, and I think she had to really, through the last 3-4 years, keep saying, Vinta, behave yourself, behave your age.
No, but it's so important for us to not behave our age. Why should we behave our age? Are men behaving their age? They're not. So why should we be constantly being told, because I'm a mother, I've got 2 children, I need to behave a certain way? Who are you to decide how I behave? I will behave the way I want to behave. And the narratives are changing. We are the people who are sitting here, the books that we are writing, the films that we are making. We've just made a fabulous film which we hope all of you will watch. The kind of pop culture that we create, we are the creators, right? That pop culture will destroy these stereotypes, and that's what will bring about that change. जो गया सो गया, वो हम अब नहीं बदल सकते. We can't change our interpretation of माँ तो ऐसी ही होती है. माँ सिर्फ ऐसी नहीं होती है. बहुत टाइप की माँएं होती हैं इस दुनिया में, और सारी माँएं बहुत cool होती हैं. You know, it's important for us to understand that. And if we start to think of women as being cool people, grandmoms are cool, sisters are cool. You know, if granddads who drink and do cheers with their granddaughters are cool, then grandmoms who do shots are also cool. So we have to make them cool. So I think that's what I would say.
Somewhere along the way, there is a demand and a supply thing, you know. If Balika Vadus are exciting, then Balika Vadus will go on forever. So you cannot blame the writer or the maker or the creator. It's us who creates the demand. If I were there, I'd make this thing where all the whole family comes, bar comes, all the family, great gathering happens, bars to make an important announcement, and plus we do get close-up shots, long shots, little music, palna wala stuff, and the bar says, "Mujhe shaadi karni." That would be my kindness.
Very correct.
Bar Vadhu.
Very exciting. The day I got divorced after.
Yes, it has a host of women. And because these were stories that came out of the COVID situation, it doesn't talk very heavily about the virus or the illness per se. And this is before, I began writing this book before COVID became what COVID is today, you know. So it's a time when we were all cooking at home, we were, you know, we were on the house party, hanging out with friends online and enjoying, you know, a drink every evening, chilling with friends. In vague virtual universes, and it was a very interesting, very odd time because the dolphins were out, and you know the husbands were home, and the children and all of us were we were playing Monopoly, and you know we were living some very peculiar Enid Blyton life which we've never lived in Bombay before, right? Like all locked in together, very happy. Within 4 doors, kind of, oh, let's play football outside, but we don't have an outside to go to. So anyway, so I think it was a very interesting time because suddenly there were no maids, so we were chopping our own vegetables and washing our own dishes and pretending we were enjoying all of this, and maybe also enjoying because we were also on Instagram all the time and clicking lovely pictures of ourselves. We saw Katrina also washing dishes, so we were like, yeah, come on. Washing dishes is a lot of fun, and it's jhadu and all, you know, I mean, it was all looking very glam, and so yeah, so it was a peculiar time. So that's when I began writing these stories, and Maria actually happens to be also one of the first readers of the stories which I started writing. And yes, they do star a lot of women because I am a woman, and I know a lot of women who were going through all kinds of things. And I think that it was very important to look at all our mental states at that time, and somebody was talking about mental issues. With a pinch of salt. So those women, well, one of the women over there actually murdered her husband and kept him in because during COVID, nobody was sort of coming in to check, right? So yeah, so I think what is interesting is that I feel like the stories that we create should be about wicked women. You know, there are enough stories about good women. Let's talk about the slightly wicked women for a change. Just a little bit.
Sorry, I can't resist an opportunity to plug, since you said wicked women.
How many children? I said, now you won't get married again. I said, why? How do you manage? I said, I have a boyfriend, he's 17 years younger than me, we have great sex. आप बताइए ना. नहीं नहीं, मेरा मतलब तो नहीं था. मैंने बोला मेरा मतलब वही था. आप बताइए. So the point is not what the guy says. मैंने एक चीज I tell all my people. As the brand custodian, सवाल जो भी आए वो आता नहीं है कैमरे में, जवाब वही देना जो देने का. So what do you think? Are you a man affair? This atmosphere is very beautiful. I like the way we are sitting here. खत्म हो गया answer. They could change the narrative, go somewhere else. He will like that narrative, he will go and pick up your point. But you don't have to answer all the questions in your life. On camera and off camera. If somebody has a stupid question, give him a stupid answer. Or just knock his face with your hands in your pocket. So it's a very simple way to handle yourself, no? Feel empowered, look at the rat and tell the rat, that's it. खत्म हो गया बात. So that is something we have to build in ourselves, and when we build in ourselves, we get empowered by reading. Like when I read Enid Blyton, there were so many tales that were so beautiful. But there was a green goblin chair. For months I couldn't sit on a chair which I had the gap. I used to think मेरे को लेके भाग जाएगा. So when you empower children, even with such narratives of people who are powerful, then you know what you can do. Like that. Apart from that, your children know कि मेरा button missing है, कहाँ है, मेरा चप्पल यही रखा था, कहाँ गया. And obviously, thank you so much for setting my shelf now. So those are like one of the few simple things that we do, And a woman is never defined by who she is. She is always defined by इसकी माँ, उसकी बीवी, उसकी बहू, इसकी बहन. So somewhere along the way, motherhood, is not just knighthood. It brings a lot of trials, tribulations, and pain with it. But women being women very easily accomplish what they have to do. But today we have accomplished women who made a mark of their own. So first I'd like to ask Rinki ji what she feels about this subject.
Oh my God. Am I being heard? Can you hear me? Yes. That's a tough question. Sure. Very tough question. I began the book, this particular book.
They're doing changing. They're changing.
The current book which I wrote, called This Love Story. The name just came like that. There cannot be a older love story than the love story between a mother and a child. So I began from there, not because I believe in motherhood or this fantastic dialogue from whichever way Shashi Kapoor said, "Mere paas maa hai." Like everybody says that, So it's not that. I mean, it's really the book itself challenges the whole notion of motherhood in a very, I would say, in a warm, sympathetic way, and eminent way. Really eminent way. Particularly if you read the book, the story by Kamala Das. Tiny little story, and she puts motherhood in its entire self. So I would love people to read it and understand anew what motherhood is all about. Really. That's my whole intention to do that. But by the way, my story hasn't come in yet. I forgot all about my own story when I went to be collecting these stories. Hopefully, I believe all my copies are sold out. So hopefully, I think now I can, get my story, in the reprint. That would answer your question. Anusha,
No, I'm sorry. I just want this panel staying behind, please.
forget it. That's it. They're all larger than life.
It's always given to girls to. There was this ad on TV about how young, men should always be second to women, always given to women. So my little boy, he was 10 years old then, at one point he turned around and asked me, should boys always given to girls? And that's when I realized that it's important to teach both of them to respect each other. No one is better than the other. So that's where the idea came from.
I would like to show off my book.
And I have a question for Rinki after
This one, This book has been sold out, yes, I'm very happy. Now I can have my piece outside. Yeah.
Show Rinki.
Yes. This one.
It's a lovely book. I've read it and it's just beautiful.
Same here.
Really, I believe. Thank you for saying that.
I have a question for Rinki.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about parents, parenting and all the things that are out there. You are very liberal and extremely like a woman of the world, and I think you brought up your children to be like that as well. So tell us a little bit about the history of this liberalism that has come down to you, which you have passed on to your kids, and now you are obviously working on your grandchildren also.
Well, I'm not working on my grandchildren, but one lets them grow up. I think, Vinta, I have to definitely say that the values I really cherish have come from my father and his friends. this whole inclusiveness that my father portrayed.
She's also a record holder for Guinness World Record as well. She is one of the 51 most
where women take center stage. You know, thematically, I was very, very taken up with the lives of women. And then, of course, television happened to me. When I started out, the first show, the first daily that I got to write was about a woman whom I could fairly easily identify with. You know, she was an urban woman, she was a career person, she wanted to have an identity of her own. So this was a show called Astitva. And I related to her, so it was, I would say, a bit of a cakewalk writing this show. But I would say my real sort of growth as a writer who is fascinated with the lives of women happened with a show like Balika Vadhu, where the entire, the setting, the characters, the world, the psychology, the conservative sort of, mindset of most of the characters was very, very difficult for me to relate to, was very difficult to find that connect with. But that's also, I mean, it's like, I think, as thinking women, all of us realize that the biggest challenges are those which make you grow the most. So I think that's what happened with my last show. And so if you're asking me about writing about women, in my own little way, depending on which medium I am writing for, I try my best to have an author's voice. It's not just hurtling from one episode to another, trying to figure out what can make an audience sit at the edge of their seat. There is always subliminally a certain voice that I try very hard to speak in, which is about women. Sometimes I succeed, many a time I fail, but I'll keep trying.
That's something that's very exciting about women authors only. I think women tend to bring empowerment in their words, even if they're not able to bring it into the scene per se, somewhere inside, it's always an insight. Personally, I had a lot of growth after watching her show. I used to tell everything that my sons asked me, "Ja tari bindni le aa." So, which is one of the reasons why my sons felt ye show nahi dekhna chahiye. You tell me what do you feel? What do I feel about women and their representation? How do you?
I don't. My book. I know it's a direct plug-in. The moment I've gotten the mic, I'm plugging about my book. But my book can be read by any genre, any person, irrespective of the gender. But it's written by a woman called Nancy. As far as you're saying empowerment and all that, I believe that women are already empowered. We don't need empowerment. We just need to be heard and understood. Our voice needs to be amplified, and that's what we're doing right now. Another thing that I feel there's a lot of work done, as Ridhi was rightly mentioning about toxic femininity. I personally believe that the way we look at women needs to change. We say that women fix each other crown and all that, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right? As how women support women. There is this thing called tightrope bias, right? If a woman speaks her mind, immediately people say, "Oh my God, she's so bossy. Oh my God, she speaks her mind." But when the same thing is said by a man, we'll be like, "He's so clear. His vision is so clear. Oh my God, I'm so impressed." So I think women empowerment should be seen differently. I feel we are empowered. We just need to be seen and heard and understood who we are, and we are good to go. That's what I feel.
Since we are on that, I want to know, where did you get your self-confidence from? What inspired you to be who you are?
I think pain. Yeah. I've failed in life and I'm proud of that. I think, you know those moments, Anusha, when you're sitting and somebody would walk up to you and they will say, "How are you?" And you'll immediately say, "I'm fine." "Oh, I'm awesome." You know those affirmations, "I'm awesome, I love my inside," you know, God, it's all crap, but I'm just saying all this because I have to say it. So you'll say, "Oh, I'm awesome, I'm fantastic," and the other person, just looking at you can say, "Buddy, you need some help." And I think for me, the confidence came in when I mustered the courage to look inside of myself. I was connected to everyone outside of me but disconnected with myself. And I thought that I need to connect with myself to have better connections with others outside. And I think that was a game changer. The moment I said that I don't have to fit in, I have to stand out. The moment I felt that,
people started appreciating because I was standing out. And I think that gave me the courage that if I can be unabashedly myself, the world will fit in. And I'll quickly narrate a small anecdote. So I was meeting a person over a work meeting, and he was carrying those Nokia flip phones, like, I don't know, I mean, and I was like, you know those, I know I'm a trainer, I talk about unconscious biases, but I was looking at that mobile and making it creative professions, but at least for me as a writer, I feel sometimes that I'm a pendulum, right? So it's like a constant swerve between deep underconfidence and extreme arrogance. And I feel both those qualities are necessary in a writer, right? Because on some level, you have to have some element of arrogance to silence the inner voice that says, "Kaun tu? Who gave you the right? What makes you such an expert that you can come and write like a mystery, right? Kahan ki Agatha Christie hai tu?" So you need arrogance to talk down that voice and say, "Main top hai boss. I know what I'm doing." Secretly you don't, but you need to have the arrogance to at least pretend for some time, right? And on the other end, you also need to have the humility to say that, yeah, I'm just 3 books down. I've got a long way to go ahead. और बेहतर बनना है. I want to like write better. I want to be a cooler writer, right? So there needs to be equal space in you for both. So that's why confidence though is like a date. I mean, है ही नहीं. It's either extremes for me.
You know, it's very important to find yourself.
Show any kind of weakness till the end. That's a strong woman right there. To all the authors, because today all the discussions we've got quotable one-line.
He has more energy than all of us put together.
As I said, a strong woman right there. So you come and
तो यहाँ देखेंगे मैम, सेंटर कैमरा.
One hand up. Don't cover anybody.
ma'am, if you all can stay on.
No.